Dr. Kim Hannah stepped off the transport shuttle and felt her breath catch in her throat. The space station Nexus Prime stretched before her like a crystal cathedral, its walls pulsing with colors she had never seen before. This was humanity's first official meeting with the Galactic Confederation, and she was one of only 5 humans chosen to represent their entire species. "Stay close," whispered Commander Park Jisoo, adjusting his dark blue uniform. "We don't know what to expect." The main hall was enormous, filled with beings that looked like they had stepped out of dreams and nightmares. Tall creatures made of living crystal walked beside floating balls of pure energy. Insect-like beings with 6 arms chatted with plant people whose leaves rustled as they moved. Hannah counted at least 12 different alien species, and she was the only human biologist among them. "Welcome to the Confederation," said a voice that sounded like wind chimes. A crystal being approached them, its body sparkling with internal light. "I am Velthor, chief scientist of the Zephyrian people. You must be the humans we have heard so much about." Hannah nodded politely. "I'm Dr. Kim Hannah, and this is Commander Park Jisoo. We're honored to be here." Indeed, Velthor's light patterns shifted in what might have been amusement. "Before we can welcome any new species, we must conduct biological scans. Standard procedure. Please follow me." They walked through corridors that seemed to change color as they passed. Other alien representatives were already moving toward a large chamber filled with strange machines. Hannah noticed how confident they all looked, how they moved with the grace of beings who belonged among the stars. The scanning chamber was unlike anything she had ever seen. Beams of light moved up and down their bodies while screens displayed information in languages she couldn't read. Dr. Lee Minho, their medical officer, went first. Then Captain Cho Daeon. Finally, it was Hannah's turn. The scan felt like warm sunlight on her skin. When it finished, she joined the others in a waiting area while the aliens studied their results. She could hear them talking in the next room, their voices carrying easily through the thin walls. "Fascinating," came Velthor's wind chime voice. "The humans require 8 hours of unconsciousness every day. They call it sleep. How ... primitive." Laughter echoed from the chamber. Not human laughter, but sounds that ranged from musical chimes to buzzing clicks to sounds like breaking glass. "Look at this," another voice said. This one was deeper, with a clicking sound. "They have only one heart. One. If it stops, they die immediately." And their temperature tolerance added a third voice that sounded like electricity crackling. "They can only survive in a tiny range. It's too hot or too cold, and they simply stop working." Hannah felt her cheeks burning. Park Jisoo's jaw was tight with anger. Lee Minho stared at the floor. "Their cellular structure shows constant degradation," continued the clicking voice. "They call it aging. Their bodies actually break down over time until they die, usually in less than 100 years. The laughter grew louder. Hannah heard the word inefficient repeated several times, followed by more sounds of alien amusement. The most amusing part, Velthor's voice carried clearly, is their immune system. It's so chaotic and wasteful. When they get sick, their bodies actually make themselves feel worse to fight the illness. They raise their temperature, cause inflammation, waste enormous amounts of energy. Our systems are so much more elegant." A new voice joined the conversation. This one was harsh and commanding. "I am Crystal, medical officer of the Confederation. Based on these scans, I classify the human species as biologically inferior." The room fell silent. Hannah felt something cold settle in her stomach. "Their biological architecture is full of single-point failures," Crystal continued. "Inefficient energy use, wasteful processes, redundant systems that serve no purpose. They are clearly not evolved enough for the dangerous regions of our galaxy. What do you recommend?" asked Velthor. "Restriction to Outer Rim colonies only," Crystal declared. "For their own protection, of course. They would not survive in the core systems where real civilizations thrive." The aliens began filing back into the waiting area. Velthor approached the humans with what might have been a sympathetic expression, though it was hard to tell on a crystal face. "The results are interesting," he said diplomatically. Your species shows remarkable persistence, even if your biology is somewhat basic. Crystal loomed over them, his insect-like compound eyes reflecting the room's lights. He was twice as tall as any human, with a shell that looked like it could stop bullets and arms that could probably crush steel. Humans, he announced formally. You are hereby classified as a Category D species. It's biologically inferior, but showing potential for development. You will be restricted to the Outer Rim territories until such time as your species evolves more efficient biological systems. Turn to address the other aliens. As you can see, evolution has not been kind to these beings. Their crude biological processes and inefficient systems make them unsuitable for the challenges of advanced galactic civilization. The laughter that followed seemed to echo forever in the crystal halls. 3 months had passed since the humiliating meeting at Nexus Prime. Dr. Kim Hanna stood in the communication center of New Terra Colony, watching the star map on the main screen. Red warning lights blinked across dozens of worlds, each one representing a system in distress. Another one just went dark, reported Captain Cho Daeon, her voice tight with worry. That's the 5th Saphirian world this week. Commander Park Jisoo walked over to the communication panel, his face grim. Any word from the Confederation medical teams? Nothing good, Henna replied, scrolling through the incoming reports. They're calling it the Crimson Decay. Started in the Zephyrian home. System, about 2 weeks ago. Whatever it is, it's spreading fast. The reports were horrifying. Entire populations were dying within days of first contact with the mysterious pathogen. The Zephyrians' beautiful crystal bodies were cracking and shattering. The Voltaire's plasma forms were becoming unstable and dissolving. Even the mighty crystal, with their incredibly strong shells and multiple backup organs, were falling silent. Dr. Lee Minho entered the communication center, carrying a datapad filled with translated medical reports. I've been studying the pathogen data the Confederation shared with us. It's unlike anything we've ever seen. What does it do? Asked Hannah. It attacks at the cellular level, but in a way that's almost intelligent, Minho explained. It seems to target the most efficient biological systems first. The more advanced and optimized a species' biology, the faster they die. Park Jisoo frowned. That doesn't make sense. Shouldn't advanced biology be better at fighting disease? You'd think so, Minho said, shaking his head. But this pathogen is different. It uses a species' biological efficiency against them. Zephyrian's perfect crystal matrices become brittle and break. The Voltaire's streamlined plasma forms lose cohesion. Crystal S optimized immune systems get overwhelmed because they're too specialized. A priority transmission suddenly crackled to life. The main screen flickered, and the image of Crystal appeared. But this wasn't the proud, commanding figure they had met 3 months ago. His once perfect shell was cracked and dull. His compound eyes looked tired and desperate. Human colony New Terra. His voice was weaker than before, with a strange clicking sound that hadn't been there before. We require immediate assistance. Hannah stepped forward. What kind of assistance? The pathogen Crystal said. And even through the translator, his fear was obvious. It has reached the Outer Rim. Calculations show it will arrive. In your system within hours, Captain Cho Daeon leaned closer to the screen. What can we do? If it's killing species with advanced biology, what chance do we have? That's why we're contacting you, Crystal admitted, his pride clearly broken. We need to understand how inferior biology might react to this threat. You are? You are our test subjects. The words hit like a physical blow. Even now, facing their own extinction, the aliens still saw humans as nothing more than guinea pigs. We estimate complete extinction of your species within hours of first contact, Crystal continued. But we need data, need to understand how the pathogen affects primitive biological systems. Your sacrifice might help us find a cure. Hannah felt anger rising in her chest. Our sacrifice? The Confederation's greatest medical minds have been working on this for weeks, Crystal said desperately. The Zephyrians' crystal-based computing systems, the Voltaire's energy-based analysis, the Vecinarius quantum biological modeling. Nothing. has worked. The pathogen adapts too quickly to our advanced medical technology. Lee Minho studied the pathogen data one more time. It's almost like it was designed to target efficiency, he murmured. The more perfect a biological system, the easier it is for the pathogen to predict and overcome. Dr. Park Jisoo said quietly, "What are our chances?" Hannah looked at the data, at the reports of world after world going silent. Species that had laughed at human biology were now begging for help from the very beings they had called inferior. "Honestly," she said, "if this thing can kill the crystal with their multiple backup systems, if it can shatter Zephyrian crystal matrices that are supposed to be unbreakable, if it can destabilize pure energy beings like the Vault, I don't see how we can survive." Another transmission came through. This time it was Velthor, his crystal body flickering with unstable light patterns. "Humans, the pathogen has jumped to our long-range sensors. It's moving faster than we calculated. You have perhaps 2 hours before it reaches your system." 2 hours to live, Captain Cho Daeon said softly. "Wait," Hannah said, a thought occurring to her. "Velthor, you said the pathogen targets efficiency. What if our inferior biology is actually an advantage here? Crystal beings' light patterns shifted to what might have been confusion. I don't understand." "Our biology is messy," Hannah explained. "Inefficient. Full of redundant systems and wasteful processes. Everything you laughed at about us. What if that chaos is exactly what this pathogen can't handle?" Crystal's compound eyes focused on her. "You're suggesting that biological inferiority might be protective?" "I'm suggesting," Hannah said, "that we're about to find out if there's any value in refusing to quit." The first reports came in an hour later. The pathogen had reached New Terra's outer atmosphere. The test was about to begin. The red mist descended on New Terra like a crimson storm. Dr. Kim Hannah watched through the medical center's windows as the pathogen spread across the colony's atmosphere, creating swirling patterns that were both beautiful and terrifying. "First cases are coming in," reported Dr. Lee Minho, his voice tense as he checked the emergency monitors. "Colony sectors 7 through 12 are showing symptoms." Hannah rushed to the isolation ward, where the first patients lay on medical beds. Captain Cho Daehan was among them, her face flushed with fever, sweat beading on her forehead. Her body temperature was rising rapidly. "How do you feel?" Hannah asked, checking Daeon's vital signs. "Like I'm burning from the inside," Daeon whispered. "Everything hurts. My head, my muscles, even my bones." This was exactly what the reports from other worlds had described. First came the fever, then the cellular breakdown, then death within hours. Hannah prepared herself to document humanity's extinction. Just as she had documented the fall of 12 other species, Commander Park Jisoo entered the medical center, his own face showing the early signs of infection. "Half the colony is sick," he reported. "The other half will be soon." "Commander, you need to lie down," Hannah said, but he shook his head. "I'm fine for now. What's our status?" Hannah looked at the monitors showing patient data from across the colony. It's spreading exactly as predicted. High fever, cellular inflammation, immune system going crazy. We have maybe 6 hours before. Didn't finish the sentence. They all knew what came next, but then something strange happened. After 4 hours of steady decline, Captain Cho Daeon's temperature began to drop. Her breathing became easier. Her vital signs started to stabilize. "That's impossible," muttered Lee Minho, checking the readings again. "According to the Confederation data, she should be dead by now." Hannah ran more tests, her hands shaking with excitement and disbelief. Her white blood cell count is normalizing. The cellular damage is ... It's healing. Across the colony, similar reports began coming in. Not everyone was recovering, many were still very sick, and some had died. But a significant number of humans were fighting back against the pathogen that had destroyed entire alien civilizations. "I don't understand," Commander Park Jisoo said, looking much better than he had hours before. "Are we surviving when species with superior biology couldn't?" Hannah spent the next day running every test she could think of. She studied blood samples, cellular structures, immune responses. What she found changed everything she thought she knew about human biology. At this, she called to her team, displaying the results on the main screen. When the pathogen attacks our cells, our immune system goes completely crazy. It raises our temperature, causes inflammation, sends white blood cells everywhere. The alien said that was inefficient, Lee Min-ho pointed out. Exactly, Hannah said, her excitement growing. Pathogen is designed to attack efficient biological systems. It predicts how they'll respond and counters those responses. But our immune system is so chaotic and wasteful that the pathogen can't predict what we'll do next. She pulled up comparison data from the fallen alien species. The Zephyrians had perfect crystal matrices that responded to threats in precise, predictable ways. The Voltaire's plasma forms followed exact energy patterns. The Crystal-S immune systems were highly specialized and efficient, and the pathogen learned to beat all of them, Park Jisoo said, understanding dawning in his eyes. But look at us, Hannah continued. Our immune system is a mess. We have redundant pathways, backup systems, inflammatory responses that seem to make us sicker. We waste enormous amounts of energy fighting diseases. The aliens were right. Our biology is inefficient and chaotic. Captain Cho Daeon, now fully recovered, joined the discussion. So our weaknesses are actually strengths against this pathogen? Yes, Hannah confirmed. Every flaw in our biology becomes an advantage. Fever response creates temperature fluctuations the pathogen can't adapt to. Our inflammatory reactions, they create a chaotic cellular environment that confuses the pathogen. Our wasteful immune system, it throws so many different responses at the pathogen that it can't counter them all. News of human survival spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Desperate transmissions poured in from the few remaining alien worlds. Species that had laughed at human biology just months ago were now begging for help. Velthor's image appeared on the communication screen, his crystal body flickering with unstable patterns. Humans, this is impossible. How are you surviving? Our biology is too messy for the pathogen to handle, Hannah explained. It's designed to defeat efficient systems, not chaotic ones. But you're dying too, Velthar pointed out. Your mortality rate is still significant. About 30%, Hannah admitted. That means 70% of us are surviving. How many of your people are left? The crystal being's light patterns dimmed. Less than 1%. We're facing extinction. Crystal-S image joined the transmission. The proud insectoid looked broken, his shell cracked and dull. We were wrong about your species. No biological ... chaos. It's not a weakness. It's a strength we never understood. Can you help us? Velthor asked, his voice desperate. Can your chaotic biology teach us how to fight this pathogen? Hannah looked at her recovered colleagues, at the humans who had survived through sheer biological stubbornness. We can try. But first, the galaxy needs to learn something important. And what's that? Crystal asked. Sometimes the best strategy is simply refusing to quit, even when quitting seems logical. Dr. Kim Hannah's medical center had become the most important place in the galaxy. Every day, alien ships arrived at New Terra, their cargo holds filled with dying patients from across the Confederation. The same beings who had mocked human biology now depended on it for survival. Another Zephyrian transport just docked, reported Captain Cho Daeon, checking the arrival schedules. 200 patients, all in critical condition, Hannah looked out at the growing fleet of alien ships surrounding their small colony. Each vessel carried the desperate hope of species facing extinction. How many does that make total? Over 5,000 alien patients, replied Dr. Lee Min-ho, wiping sweat from his forehead, and more coming every hour. The medical center had expanded far beyond its original size. Temporary buildings and treatment areas stretched across the colony's main plaza. Alien patients lay on beds designed for human bodies, their exotic forms. Creating a strange and desperate tableau, Hannah walked through the wards, checking on patients. In one section, crystal Zephyrians flickered weakly, their once bright internal lights barely glowing. Nearby Voltari plasma beings struggled to maintain their energy forms in containment fields. The proud crystal lay in specially built chambers, their cracked shells held together by medical supports. Doctor called Velthar, his crystal body now dim and fractured. "Have you made any progress?" Hannah knelt beside the alien scientist who had once laughed at human biology. "We're learning, but the process is complicated." The breakthrough had come when Hannah realized that human blood contained antibodies and immune factors that could help alien patients. But the process wasn't simple. Human immune systems were so chaotic that extracting and preparing the right compounds required careful work. "We need more volunteers," Hannah announced to the colony during the daily briefing. "Plasma and immune cells. But I have to be honest, we don't know what the long-term effects might be on human donors." Commander Park Jisoo stepped forward immediately. "I'll do it." "So will I," said Captain Cho Dae-han. "Count me in," added Dr. Lee Min-ho. Within hours, nearly, every human in the colony had volunteered. The very people the aliens had dismissed as biologically inferior were now offering their bodies to save their former critics. Hannah set up the donation center in the main medical facility. Humans lay on beds, while machines carefully extracted blood, plasma, and immune cells. The process was exhausting and potentially dangerous, but no one complained. "This is remarkable," said Velthor, watching the human volunteers. "Your species shows such ... selflessness." "We call it doing the right thing," replied Captain Cho Dae-han, her arm connected to a plasma extraction device. "Even if you did laugh at us." The crystal being's light patterns shifted to what might have been shame. "We were wrong about your biology, about your character, about everything." Working alongside alien scientists who now treated her with deep respect, Hannah developed treatment protocols based on human immune responses. The process was like teaching the galaxy's most advanced medical minds to think like chaotic human immune systems. "The key is randomness," she explained to a group of alien doctors. "Your medical systems try to find the most efficient solution, but this pathogen defeats efficiency. We need to be wasteful, chaotic, unpredictable." Dr. Zethkal, a brilliant Thekanari physician, studied the human blood samples with fascination. "Your immune cells actually fight each other sometimes. They waste energy, create inflammation, cause fever, it seems." "It's wrong." "That's exactly why it works," Hannah said with a smile. The treatment process required human volunteers to serve as living medical factories. Their chaotic immune systems would produce the antibodies and immune factors needed to treat alien patients. It was dangerous work. Some humans became severely ill from the strain. "We're asking too much of them," worried Lee Min-ho as he watched exhausted volunteers being helped from the donation center. "No," said Captain Cho Dae-han firmly. "We're finally proving that human biology has value, that we have something to offer the galaxy." The first successful treatments began within a week. Alien patients who had been dying slowly began to recover. Their own immune systems, guided by human-derived factors, learned to fight the pathogen. In chaotic, unpredictable ways, Crystal was among the first to fully recover. The proud insectoid medical officer approached Hannah's office, his shell still bearing scars from the plague, but his compound eyes bright with life. "Dr. Hannah," he said, his voice carrying a humility that hadn't been there before. "I must apologize. When I classified your species as biologically inferior, I was demonstrating my own ignorance." "You were working with the information you had," Hannah replied diplomatically. "No," Crystal insisted. "I was blinded by prejudice. I assumed that efficiency meant superiority. I failed to understand that diversity, even apparent weakness, can be strength." News of the human solution spread across the galaxy. Species that had survived the plague began arriving at New Terra, not as patients, but as students. They wanted to learn from human medicine, to understand how biological chaos could be more powerful than biological perfection. "We're going to need a bigger medical school," joked Dr. Lee Min-ho, as he watched another ship full of alien medical students arrive. Hannah smiled, watching human volunteers continue their life-saving work. The galaxy was learning that sometimes the best biological system was the one that refused to make sense. 6 months after the plague had ended, Dr. Kim Hannah stood in the great crystal chamber of the Galactic Confederation Council. The same hall where aliens had once laughed at human biology now buzzed with respectful conversation. Representatives from dozens of species filled the seats, their attention focused on the small group of humans at the center. The Galactic Confederation. Council is now in session, announced the ceremonial speaker, a tall being with silver skin and 4 arms. We gather today to formally welcome humanity as a core member species. Hannah looked around the chamber, remembering her first visit here 6 months ago. The same aliens were present, but everything had changed. Where once there had been mockery and dismissal, now there was respect and even gratitude. Crystal stepped forward to address the council. Fellow beings of the Confederation, he began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation. Systems. I stand before you as someone who made a terrible mistake. Even the usual whispers and side conversations stopped. 6 months ago, I classified the human species as biologically inferior. Crystal continued. I mocked their inefficient systems, their wasteful processes, their apparent weaknesses. I recommended restricting them to the Outer Rim colonies, believing they were too primitive for our advanced civilization. He paused, his mandibles clicking softly. I was wrong. Completely. Absolutely wrong. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Many of the aliens present had been among those who had laughed at human biology. The Crimson Decay taught us a hard lesson, Crystal said. It showed us that biological perfection can be a weakness, that efficiency can be a trap, that sometimes the messy, chaotic, seemingly wasteful systems we dismissed as primitive are actually the strongest of all. Commander Park Jisoo stepped forward to accept the formal recognition on behalf of humanity. We appreciate this gesture, he said simply. But we hope this experience has taught us all something more important than just accepting humans. What do you mean? Asked Velther, his crystal body pulsing with curious light patterns. We mean that biological diversity should be celebrated, not ranked, Park Jisoo replied. Every species has something valuable to offer, even if we don't understand it at first. Dr. Lee Min-ho nodded in agreement. The plague didn't just save human lives, it saved the entire galaxy's understanding of what biology can be. The Council began implementing new protocols immediately. The old system of classifying species as superior or inferior was abolished. Instead, each species would be studied for their unique biological contributions, their special strengths, their particular ways of solving life's challenges. We are establishing the Department of Biological Diversity, announced the ceremonial speaker. Dr. Lee Min-ho of the human species will serve as its first director. Applause filled the chamber, not the polite, dismissive clapping of before, but genuine appreciation and respect. Hannah found herself appointed as the galaxy's first Chief of Biological Resilience. Her job was to study and preserve the unique biological traits of all member species, to ensure that no valuable genetic diversity was ever lost again. Your first assignment, Velthar told her privately after the ceremony, is to establish medical training programs. We want to learn from human medicine, from your chaotic approach to healing. You want to learn chaos? Hannah asked, amused. We want to learn flexibility, the crystal being replied. Your biology taught us that rigid systems, no matter how perfect they seem, can be brittle. We need to develop medical practices that can adapt, that can be unpredictable when necessary. The changes went beyond medicine. Engineers began studying human problem-solving methods. Fascinated by how humans often found solutions through trial and error rather than perfect calculation, philosophers examined human ethics, intrigued by how humans made decisions based on emotion and instinct, as well as logic. It's interesting, Captain Cho, Daeon observed, as she watched alien students learning human medical techniques. They're not just learning our biology, they're learning our whole approach to life. The galaxy established new research centers dedicated to studying inefficient biological systems. What had once been seen as evolutionary mistakes were now recognized as potential advantages, waiting for the right circumstances. The Crimson Decay could return, Crystal warned during one of their planning sessions, or something like it. Need to be prepared with diversity, not just efficiency. That's why we're cataloging every biological trait we can find, Hannah replied. Every seemingly useless adaptation, every wasteful process, every chaotic system. We're building a library of biological possibilities. The final ceremony took place in the same chamber where humans had first been dismissed. But now, instead of laughter, there was celebration. Species from across the galaxy had come to honor not just humanity, but the principle humanity had taught them. Today, we celebrate a new understanding, the ceremonial speaker announced. We have learned that strength comes not from perfection, but from persistence. Not from efficiency, but from adaptability. Not from rigid systems, but from the willingness to keep trying when logic says to quit. Hannah looked out at the diverse gathering of species, each now valued for their unique contributions. The galaxy had learned its lesson well. In a universe full of unknown challenges, the greatest strength was often the refusal to give up. Even when giving up seemed logical, the laughter had stopped. The galaxy had learned to listen. And in that listening, they had discovered that sometimes the most important biological trait of all was simply refusing to quit.